Hi, welcome to Manas Shield YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Tensura Volume 19. Chapter 3. The Royal Capital in Flames. Crisis on Damargania. A gentleman stood before Dagrul. It was Fen. The reason why he looked so gentlemanly was because it was in comparison to Dagrul. Fen was slender, yet tall like a giant, and his supple muscles were toned. His skin was white. It was morbidly white, having been depigmented by isolation in a sunless room for an uncanny number of years. His green hair was long and shaggy, and his eyes shone like jade. He wore a long, loose robe with an open bust. Accentuating his appearance were the chains wrapped around his waist and shoulders. The Gleipnir that had bound him for years was now Fen's favorite. With an elusive movement, Fen walked towards Dagrul, his body swaying back and forth. At first glance, he seemed defenseless, but that was not the case. He was moving like a martial arts master, ready to respond to any attack. Fen smirked. "I've missed you, brother." Fen called out to him, and Dagrul let out a big sigh. "It's true that I missed you, but I never wanted to see you again." "Oh, come on, don't say such lonely things. It's only us three brothers." "That's right. That's why I'm so sorry that we went down the wrong path." "Huh. You've changed, brother. You used to be such a cool guy." Fen responded with a disgruntled look. To Fen, Dagrul was his idol. But now, he felt that Dagrul has lost his fangs, and was no longer interesting to him. "We once stood up against Feldnava, and now we know the reality." "That's your excuse, isn't it, brother?" "I don't accept that." "Nonsense. We're only alive because of his kindness." "That's the thing, I don't like my brother being such a coward." "And what about Feldnava? If Feldway resurrects Feldnava, then I'll see who's better, black and white." "You idiot. You don't know who he is." "Enough of this argument. It's all pointless anyway. Now then, let's fight. I'll beat you, and wake you up, brother." "Fen, you." Both Fen's and Dagrul's bodies were engulfed in a swirling fighting spirit. Under the tremendous pressure, the Heavens Tower, which should be indestructible, shook violently. The next moment, Dagrul's fist plunged into Fen's face with an impact that seemed to pierce the earth and sky. However, Fen held his ground. Then, in return, he squatted down deeply, and delivered a heavy, sharp uppercut into Dagrul's stomach. Dagrul's body flew helplessly in the air, but Fen seized the moment, and threw a kick to his legs. The impact of Dagrul's massive body hitting the wall made the Heavens Tower creak, as if it were about to collapse. But Dagrul got up, as if nothing had happened. "Tis. I see that your skills haven't dulled. It's the same with brother. Any normal person would have been done by now, you know. Don't underestimate me. The name Octagram is something to live up to. You seem to like it." "Quite a bit, yeah." As soon as he replied, Dagrul unleashed the full power of fighting spirit. Dagrul had an existence value of over 40 million. Although Fen's existence value was greater, his pressure was also comparable to that of the true dragons. The battle was left to each side's abilities. Leon quietly stepped onto the battlefield. Standing in front of him was Dagrul's younger brother and Fen's older brother, Glasford. He was about 2 meters tall, large by other races' standards, but small by giant standards. His skin color was yellow, somewhere between that of his older and younger brothers. His eyes were purple, and had an intellectual glow to them. He had the tendency to believe that he must remain open-minded, because of the hardships he had suffered as a result of being sandwiched between his unrestrained older brother and free-spirited younger brother. He was aware of this, but he could not help his innate temperament. It is for this reason that Glasford used a two-handed sword, greatsword, a weapon that emphasized technique, which was unusual for giants who excelled in bare-handed or clubbed weapons. He did not carry a shield, and his fighting style was completely offensive, but that was a sign of his confidence. Although Glasford's existence value was just under 2 million, and although he seemed fragile compared to his brothers, he was undoubtedly a million-class competitor. And his skill level was the highest among the three brothers. "You are Demon Lord Leon Dono, I presume." "My name is Glasford. I am the second in command of the Titan Corps. I would have preferred to test my skills against you, when you were not being deprived of your free will, but that will have to wait for another time. I will give up the win for today." With that, Glasford stepped in front of Leon. The gentlemanly Veron stood in front of the languid Dino. Veron was a Duke-class demon peer, second in rank only to Grand Duke Moss. However, he had to admit that his odds were not just a little, but very bad against a pillar of the originals, which was comparable to the primordials. Still, this was better than his master who was dealing with two such originals at the same time, and he intended to fulfill his role to the fullest. That was, to buy time. Dino won't take things seriously anyway, so I think you can be a match for him. If I come out, Dino might get serious. That's why I'll leave this to you, Veron. When asked so adorably, Veron had no way to refuse. In order to live up to his master's expectations, he was determined to give it his all. Well, I guess I have to fight too. If you'd be willing to stall for time, I'd be more than happy to do so. I can't do that. Unfortunately, I'm not even allowed to slack off right now. That's what Dino said, but he was still trying to figure out how much was acceptable. It was frustrating that he couldn't say that, but he was relieved that he could say the following line. Well, Ultima is one thing, but I'll take you on with swordplay alone. In other words, he was declaring that he wouldn't use his skills. He knew from Leon's battle that he didn't need to fight with all his might. If Leon had been serious, the battle would have been much more intense. Dino had once witnessed Leon's true fighting style. The flash of his sword was like light and had the power to slice through even the spirit. As far as he remembered, he did not believe that the current Leon was serious at all. That's why Dino also imitated him. This is not slacking off, rather it is a way of not betraying my friends, that is what Dino told himself. Observing Dino's behavior, Veron also understood. He was a demon who was very sensitive to the subtleties of people and their emotions. As Ultima Sama predicted, Dino Sama does not seem enthusiastic about this battle. If that's the case, I'm sure I can be a worthy enough opponent. Once he understood that, the decision was easy. Pretending to be challenged by Dino and fight back. I've been taken for a fool. Then, allow me to break your arrogant nose. Saying this, Veron performed a change with his ultimate gift artist. The figure he imitated was, of course, the youthful form of Byakuya Rocky, Ajura's former life. In his hand was a sword forged by Kurobi. It was a legendary great work of art, made to resemble a walking stick. In fact, Kurobi had improved his skills since he arrived here. As shown by the sword he had given to Esprit, he had become an incredibly skilled swordsmith, with 7 or 8 of his 10 swords being legendary grade. In fact, it would not be long before he would reach the level of a divine craftsman. Kurobi's sword fit well in Veron's hand. Veron was beginning to understand the appeal of swords, though only when using the ultimate gift artist. Interesting. I'll take it a little seriously. That was a lie. Dino's eyes were flickering with anxiety. You're okay, right? You understand what I'm trying to say, don't you? He was desperately asking that question. Veron nodded broadly, as if to reassure him. I'll take your word for it. Take it easy on me. And with that, he made Dino smile. In front of Pico and Gracia, Ultima stood alone. Hey, Viola Primordial. No, it's Ultima now. I'm sure you understand the situation, but are you sure you want to take on the both of us by yourself? Gracia asked. Ultima responded with a smile. Well, it's not an issue. As for me, as far as I'm concerned, you guys are just the right amount to get used to. We've been taken as fools. I'm pissed off too. I won't forgive you, even if you cry. Unlike with Dino and Veron, the conflict here was quite serious. Rather, Ultima was even enjoying the situation. She had assessed Pico and Gracia's fighting ability and concluded that they were weaker than her. She was right. Pico and Gracia were not weak, and were of course million class, but their existence values were around 2 million, a step below Ultima. On top of that, Ultima had the rare experience of having fought to the death against a competitor of equal ability, Damargania. This fact confirmed Ultima's confidence, and she thought that these two would be the perfect test for her to hone her skills. If I hit you, maybe you'll get your free will back, so I'll cooperate with you. That's the kind of thing that never works. Yeah, that's right. It's none of your business. While exchanging such casual remarks, the head-on collision began. The battle between Dagrul and Fen was, to the casual observer, extremely intense. But in reality, neither of them was serious. If they had been, everyone in the area would have been put under the pressure of their fighting spirit, and some of them might not have been able to even stand. At the very least, it would have been less of a battle. But the time for observation would soon be over. The other groups did not want to fight in the small building, and moved to their own battlefields. As a result, Dagrul and Fen were the only ones left in the multi-storied Heavens Tower. It's been a while since I've been this heated. Brother, I'm about to get serious. That's what I want. Fen's fighting spirit swelled. His power, rivaling that of the true dragon, exerted a visible pressure on Dagrul. However, Dagrul was not to be defeated either. And, by letting his own fighting aura permeate his body, he transformed his muscles into something specialized for combat. This was the start of a full-scale battle between the two brothers, and each of their goals was non-negotiable. Fen wanted the Dagrul of his rampaging days back. Dagrul, on the other hand, was seeking stability and order. He was willing to go to war if necessary, but he was not willing to go to war in vain. They had incompatible goals. However, the winner of this fight would be able to make his opponent follow their wishes. Because the battle would intensify. And so, little by little, Fen gradually began to gain the upper hand in what had been a tight competition. The difference in strength was apparent. In addition to that, the decisive factor was the Gleipnir, a chain that Fen could control at will. Valdinava had created it with his own hands, and it was an indestructible chain that boasted strength and flexibility above even the mythical grade. Fen had been bound by it for so many years that he had come to be able to control Gleipnir as if it were part of his own body. You so cocky, you've gained even more strength than before to have pushed me so far like this. Dagrul was caught off guard and had his hands and feet twisted together by Gleipnir. He had an expression of anguish on his face. Fen smirked. Brother, you'd better accept the memories of the pain I deeply experienced. And with that, he delivered a powerful headbutt. A moment later, Dagrul and Fen's souls touched, and their memories and emotions crossed. What resulted from this was the sharing of memories. As a result, Dagrul remembered. Do you remember now, brother? I feel like I'm awake. I see, well that's good. Fen's smile deepened. He then offered his hand to his brother Dagrul in a gesture of affection. That hand was clasped tightly. Now then, it's time to fight. Let's show the world the might of our Titan army. Of course. As expected of brother, that's what I'm talking about. Dagrul shouted, and Fen smiled happily. The member of the Octagram, and the giant demon lord who guarded the heavens tower, was no more. The ancient evil deity had returned. Under Dagrul's command, the giant warriors had all been summoned. The Titan army was renamed the Binding Chain Titans, and they began their march into the barren desert to recreate the tyranny of ancient times. It was not an orderly movement at all. Each of them took their own weapons as they saw fit, and acted in accordance with the orders of the king, Dagrul. Thus, without any preparation time, the collective action was completed with a speed that could make a mockery of the military organization. Even Glasford, who had been in league with Leon, was no exception. It seems that the reason for hostility has disappeared. From now on, I will be your comrade in battle. As soon as he said this to Leon, Glasford left the scene. Leon dealt with the sun perturbed. It had been the expected conclusion if Fen won. Seeing this, Ultima felt like crying. Hold on, are you kidding me? No matter how much stronger I've gotten, this is just too much. She was tempted to complain. After all, the number of allies had decreased, and the number of enemies had increased. This was exactly the strategy that Remure had been aiming for, and now the enemy was trying to pull it off. Fortunately, Dagrul, who was now the enemy, ignored Ultima and the others and started to advance. No, she shouldn't take that as a blessing, but she couldn't help but think that they were lucky, because if they had been targeted right now, they would have been defeated. In any case, the situation was terrible. Even Veron, who had fought evenly against Dino, could not hide his impatience. Ultima-sama, what should we do? We're running out of time, and I wonder if it's best to start all over again. Not fearing Ultima's displeasure, he even suggested so. Without complaining about this, Ultima fell silent. She was thinking. Hey, you've definitely gotten stronger. I'll give you that. But with Dagrul joining us, you won't be able to win anymore, right? That's right. You should just admit defeat and leave to the demon world. Then we won't have to chase you, and we'll call it a draw. Gracia and Pico, who had been completely outclassed, were now in high spirits. Like Ultima, Pico, and Gracia were fighting without using their skills. As a result, they had been humiliated, even when outnumbering the opponent 2-1. But now that the tables had turned, they felt happy, regardless of their position. Shut up. I know that too. But if I back out now, I wouldn't be able to show my face to Remure-sama. Ultima was getting more and more grumpy. When this happened, she became more in the mood to go on a rampage, rather than win. She had been told by Remure that Dino and the other two were only under Michael's control. Therefore, she had been trying to neutralize them without really trying. But the question was, if she really tried, would she be able to defeat all the enemies in this place? If it was a matter of life and death, the odds would be better. But even so, Ultima knew that she could not be sure. Leon, Dino, Pico, and Gracia. Of the four, Dino would be the most troublesome. And perhaps, if Leon and Ultima were serious, it would not be surprising if either of them won. In other words, there was no chance of victory. Veron was right, and that is why Ultima did not throw a tantrum and remain silent. She wondered what she should do, but the situation did not allow for it. And so, Ultima made up her mind. I believe in Rimuru-sama. He should be here soon, so we'll hold him off until then. Any objections, Veron? By your will. And so, the plan was set. Kufufufu, you made the right choice. I commend you, Ultima. The long-awaited reinforcements had arrived just in time. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.